So, Sam, it's so good to see you, man. It's been a while.
I know. It's good to see you. Thanks for hanging out.
I've been following you on social. You got a vacation in, you got some golf in. I'm psyched to see that you're doing the balanced life and getting the marketing going.
Absolutely. I'm really beginning to, it took me years and years, but I'm really beginning to recognize that the only way I stay productive and driven is to check out every once in a while. Even though I still I don't have it in me to like get rid of this for a few days, but I kind of checked out. And so it was awesome.
They say you got to get the train back on the tracks every once in a while, right? So it's good that you got that going, refreshed, ready for the spring. So folks, if you haven't met El Paso Sam yet, this is my friend Sam out of El Paso, Texas, who has come to drop value bombs on us. He's a marketing guy. He works with a title insurance company. He's been in the title industry. He sat in your seat as a real estate agent as well. So he brings all this wonderful knowledge. And what he's going to do is he's going to bring us some knowledge about LinkedIn and how to utilize LinkedIn in the best way possible. LinkedIn, I've always viewed since its inception was kind of a B2B kind of thing, right? So you're networking business to business as opposed to what a lot of the real estate professionals are marketing business to consumer. But we're seeing it much more in the business to consumer space too, huh, Sam?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone knows of like TikTok and some of these super fast growing platforms, but LinkedIn's one of the fastest growing social platforms there is. And I think the pandemic is part of the reason to be thankful for that. So it's becoming a lot more, not just B2B, but straight to consumer. And, I think it's the place to be. Microsoft's dumping tons of money into it, and they usually don't do that unless they know it's going to work. So,
right. So we're going to do a couple of things, folks. So what we'd like you to do is if you're live, say hello, we're live. If you're watching this on replay, say hi, we're watching it on replay. But El Paso Sam is going to give us the knowledge about LinkedIn. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about the market, right? He's out in Texas. He's coming with all that knowledge. We were just warming up in the green room or the waiting room, as they call it in Zoom. And we were talking about some stuff and he was kind of blowing my mind. So after the presentation, we're going to talk about that, talk about some strategies for lifting inventory. But first, I want to talk about the school. So as you see, for those who have come to class, I'm in the school. We are open. However, we're creating the perfect CE. That's right. You've heard of the perfect webinar. We are creating the perfect CE. And what we're going to be doing, it's another COVID positive. Sam, we like to refer to it as COVID positives when something cool comes out. Last night, for example, I was stuck. I could not get out of the office and my son had a game, 4 o'clock first pitch, half hour away. Last appointment, it's 4:10, 4:15, and there's no way I'm getting out. They sent me a link to YouTube. I'm sitting in my reception area watching my kid play baseball on the TV. It was like I was watching a Red Sox game. It was so awesome. And it even got better. Walk-off hit, dude. Walk-off hit. Yes, so proud. Papa proud Papa. Bottom of the 7th, bases, whatever, tied up, base hit, scored. They stormed the field. It was wild. It was holding back the tears. But so another COVID positive is the Zoom CEs. We were teaching Zoom CEs through Zoom. And yeah, everyone wants to get live. We want to hug. We want to hang out. We want to see each other. And we'll have plenty of time to do that. But we found that the Zoom teaching model is way convenient for everybody. The commute from the kitchen to the living room, from the living room to the home office or what have you, for 2 hours, no travel, no aggravation, no traffic, no parking. We're doing it. But why are we calling it the perfect CE, you ask? Because that was your cue. Because what we're doing is we're taking the CE of the purchase and sale agreement. So the curriculum of the purchase and sale agreement, but we're breaking it into 8 small parts, right? We're going to teach different parts of the purchase and sale agreement through the voice of different attorneys on our team. So Becky is going to teach a piece on title and zoning. Emmanuel's going to speak about the building inspection, the building department, and condo conversions. I'm going to be speaking to the relationship between offer and purchase and sale agreement, along with the relationship between the parties, the attorneys, the cooperating attorneys, the counterparties, if you will, and then all of the referral partners and how that works and how those flow, as well as talking about the real estate investor space. And then we're going to have Lisa talk about dealing with divorce and divorced couples. Ben is going to talk about the estate piece of it, right? Somebody dies in title, license to sell. Is there a will? How do we handle all that? So we're going to break it into parts, and it's going to be awesome. So get with us to schedule a class with your office. We're going to be doing it in offices. So we're not going to be doing classes here in the school just yet. But after we do that, we'll probably go back to those small groups back in here. So that's what we're doing with the school. Hopefully you'll join us with that. And without further ado, I want to reintroduce El Paso Sam Schrimmel of El Paso, Texas, who is going to tell us all about LinkedIn and how we can utilize that platform to benefit, right? To lever up, to get things cooking. So Sam, take it away.
Well, first of all, man, kudos to you and your team providing the level and the amount of education that you guys do. Like, as a realtor, I remember scrambling, and sometimes the content was blah, or I couldn't find it, or it wasn't convenient. And so being able to have that kind of all in a place that's easily accessible, that covers everything, that's awesome. So nice work.
Happy to do it. It's fun, actually. It's a lot of fun.
And by the way, I saw that picture yesterday of the television tuned into the game.
Oh, cool.
Technology can be really, really cool. It can be not so cool sometimes, but it can be really cool.
Well, it's, I've been telling people about it, since I started realizing they were streaming them. And I was saying, this is going to be great because people aren't pressured to go to the games. But what about those kids in 7th, 8th, 9th grade whose games are at like 2:30? People are scrambling to get there. But maybe the kid doesn't want the parent there because the parent's like at the top of the Johnny, run, Johnny, run. So how beneficial is that going to be for that kid too, right?
You can yell at the TV instead.
But it's funny. So I mentioned, it's funny you mentioned the post. I mentioned the it's a COVID positive. Yep. 2 people called me like, you got COVID? I'm like, no, man, no. So I went back and edited it and put it in quotes. Another COVID positive. So they thought I was like hunkered down in my basement watching the game. Did you think that for a second?
Honestly, I read it like 2 or 3 times to make sure. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I got it. But it was a COVID positive.
Right. A positive COVID moment. So I just gave you the host. You have the steering wheel. So take it.
Here we go. Can you see me over here?
I do.
All right, cool. So anytime I talk about anything, I want to nerd out on facts a little bit. So one of the first things that I like to do is get my facts straight. And LinkedIn, believe it or not, is 18 years old this year. It doesn't seem, but it is. And it's the most trusted social network online, which, based on its professionalism and like, this is where I'm buttoned up and all that stuff, you can see why. Content creation increased 60% in 2020. That's no surprise. I'm actually surprised it wasn't a little bit more, but significantly more people took to the network, not only to keep their businesses up and running and create connections, but also to just be a little social when all of us were hunkered down for the time that we were. And a couple more facts: 750 million users are on LinkedIn.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's up like 150 million from 18 to 24 months ago. So it's growing massively, especially over the last couple of years. Engagement is up massively. It's different than other platforms. Most other platforms, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the TikToks of the world, the Twitters of the world, are heavily mobile. Some of them, TikTok is like 97% mobile. It's all mobile. But one thing that's a little bit different and just shows the level of professionalism and the time that people take on LinkedIn is that it's almost 50-50 mobile versus PC. And so it's the only one that has that level of PC usage because people are being methodical. They're sitting at their computer when they're on the platform.
They're not just swiping. They're there for a reason.
Yeah. Speaking of swiping, we were just talking about my thumb. That was my problem back in the day. Too much swipe left, swipe right. But when it comes to recruiting, our industry right now, Mark, right, is just like, we can't find people, right? Like and everybody's pretty much like that. 3 people are hired using LinkedIn every single minute of every day. So I'm seeing a ton of people use LinkedIn for their recruiting. and it's working very, very well, obviously, and the proof is in those stats. So I figured I would kind of break down some X's and O's of what I wanted to go over today, and we can kind of breeze through it. And I'll give you a copy of this presentation, and you can probably, or I can even drop it in a downloadable format in the comments below. So anybody that wants it, don't take notes. I'll give you the whole thing afterwards.
So I think Michaela's created a bubble for you. So there's an El Paso Sam bubble. So we'll actually put this in there in the document section of the bubble.
Man, I've made it. I got
Oh, you made it. You're in the real estate school at 892 bubble.
I got to call my mom, man. So we'll go over some top profile tips and ways to optimize your profile. We'll go over a couple ways how to grow your authority using LinkedIn. We'll talk a little bit about content, which is one of the things that comes up the most when I meet with people. And then we'll talk about a few ways to network like a boss using this platform, and then we'll wrap it up. So like anything else, putting your best foot forward is always important. And LinkedIn, there's a few simple ways to do that. The first thing is have the best headshot you can. I have got to update this thing. I don't even look like that anymore. COVID has not only aged me, but I also have hair that I can, that gets caught in my mouth sometimes now, which is weird. I've never had that happen before. But a professional profile picture. If you want to remove the background or make it a solid color to really make it stand out, it's not the best to have a profile picture where there's a lot going on in the background. So there's a couple ways. There's a couple ways to do that here when it comes to the LinkedIn profile picture. RemoveBG.com is a free way to remove the background from any photo. Canva can do it too, but it's only on the professional one. So RemoveBG is totally free. And you can see here, I have a little gray gradient around me, and I did that with RemoveBG. So the other thing that I would say that you should do is make sure you have a nice professional banner image. That's this image right here. I think this was speaking somewhere pre-COVID, obviously. And I threw the logo for West up on that screen. Did that using Canva. The cool thing about Canva for not only this, but basically anything you want to do, especially if I'm a real estate agent in today's world and I'm cranking out flyers and things like that, there's a free version that has a ton of stuff, and the social sizes are built in. So you can resize to any size you want, and it's going to fit perfectly. So it's not going to be blurry unless you wanted it to be. So Canva is a cool tool for that. Make sure all of your contact information is complete and correct. There's a cool tab here now, contact info, and when you click that on Instagram or on LinkedIn, it'll open up all of the contact info for that person. I want as many places as possible for me to be reached. I want my email, I want my phone number, I want other socials, I want a physical address potentially for your office, but make sure that stuff's complete, because I really do see more and more people heading to LinkedIn to find contact info, right? Like they may still message through LinkedIn or Messenger or something else, but they're heading to LinkedIn to figure out how to get a hold of you outside of the platform. So that's a couple quick things to think about right there, right off the bat. And if you notice that headline right under my name, that is the second most visible thing about you to everybody. So whenever they see your profile floating by, they're going to see that headline. So when you're coming up with a headline, don't forget to make it something that is very succinct, but it's a little bit of a value proposition. What can you do for people? A lot of people put their title there. You're more than a realtor associate or a broker associate. I'm more than, a marketing technology director. You're more than a title. So think about that when you write that headline. It should tell people something that you can do for them. Mine says I'm a connector. I love to be a connector of people. I don't have all the answers, but by golly, I know someone that does. And so what can you do for people? I joke with this careful with interest thing because I was teaching a class in Texas on LinkedIn probably like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago now. It was totally different platform then, but I was teaching a class. Your interests pop up on your profile towards the bottom. And we were doing like an audit of people's profile. And I said, does anybody want to volunteer? And we'll look at your profile right now and we'll give you some ideas. And this woman said, yeah, I'll volunteer. So we scrolled down, we're going through her profile. It was pretty good. We get down to interest, and she was into some weird stuff, man. And so
like what?
It was one of those moments where it was kind of like, just roll with it and we're going to get through it together. But it was awkward. So I always tell people, with any social platform, the things that you like, the pages that you like, the causes that you follow, all those things, people can see all that stuff. So, maybe you want to follow something a little more, covertly and don't like the page or something like that, but people can see that, especially on LinkedIn. It literally puts that right at the bottom of your page. You can remove it, but then it makes your profile a little more stale. So anyway, careful with your interests. That poor woman, I mean, I'm getting red talking about it right now. And I'll tell you,
she volunteered though. She wanted it out there.
So it was kind of one of those, I don't know. So one other thing that I think is kind of cool is the pronunciation trick. So when you go to edit your name or your headline, there's a little microphone there. And some people have names that people butcher all the time. And so, it's a way for you to just record how you say your name and the correct pronunciation. I turned it into like a 10-second elevator speech. So I said, my name is Sam Trimble. I'm a connector of people and businesses, and my business is helping your business grow. And that was it. And so it's just kind of funny because now you go to my profile, there's a little microphone there, and you can hear my voice. You can hear me say my name, but also tell you a little bit about myself. And I've had multiple people reach out to me and say, hey, that was really cool. How did you do that? And so LinkedIn added that feature probably about a year ago. And it's just kind of a neat little thing and something to keep people engaged in your profile. And if you don't have it, there's no speaker button. But when you have it, there's a little speaker button. Most people aren't used to seeing it. And so almost everybody will click it.
That's interesting. I'm doing it.
So continuing on your best foot forward, a bio of which your mama would be proud. I just told you I needed to call my mom and tell her I've made it. I got my own bubble at 892.
You can put that on your bio. Do it. I'll send you the logo so you can actually do it.
Oh, perfect. So I taught this a similar class a while back, and I looked at my bio live, and it was like 11 paragraphs. Yeah. I had just copied and pasted like from every bio ever. No more than 2 paragraphs. Most people aren't going to even read that. It needs to be succinct. It needs to be the highlights. This is your online resume, and I want my mom to read this and be proud of who I am and my experience. So make sure it's complete. Complete your education and past work experience. If you worked at a company that has a LinkedIn page, or you went to a school that has a LinkedIn page, which they all do at this point, make sure you actually tag that school, because it puts the little logo in it. It looks more professional than like the generic picture that's missing an image. And people want to know that stuff. The last thing I would say here is people like people who care. Mark, it's awesome to follow you and everybody at Styles, because you guys, the other day you were at a food bank, and I wish I could quote the woman that you were speaking with towards the end. She said something that really stood out to me. It was like, we're not just here for when times are really tough. We're here to make sure that there is never a time that things are tough when it comes to being able to feed your family. Your bills come first, and we're here to help, right? Like, yeah. Part of the reason people connect with you and that I connect with you is because you care about your community and you show it and you feature it. So fill out your volunteer experience on your LinkedIn. Passionate about the things that you do in your community, the causes that you care about. Not only do people like to do business with people that care, but it's also a way to showcase those organizations in another platform and let people know, they may be looking for some place to go volunteer. So make sure to fill out that volunteer section. People want to work with people that care. So this is kind of part 2, growing your authority. There's a couple quick ways that are my favorite ways to do this. The first one is the absolute easiest possible way to do it, and you can help other people do it too. So on your profile, you'll notice a section called Skills and Endorsements. LinkedIn, powered by the developer minds of Microsoft, can scroll through and scan your profile and find the things that you're most active in. So for me, it found marketing, real estate, sales, and it put those at the top. Any of these people had to do was click one button to click endorse me for those things, and it pops up on my profile. You can also right here add a new skill. So if you think you're a master negotiator and that is one of your top skills, you can add that skill and people can start endorsing you for that. One thing that they added not that long ago was LinkedIn Learning. And so where it says take a skill quiz here, you can click on that. You can select a topic about something that you think you're highly skilled in, and it will give you a quick quiz on it. And if you pass the quiz, it'll put a badge and a little icon on your profile showing that you are highly skilled in that. I think I did like a social media one or something, like social media marketing or something like that. This is a super fast way to grow some of that authority. And everything I talk about, don't forget, you can do this for other people. Oftentimes, like when I talk about reviews, what's a great way to get reviews? Give other people reviews, and then they're going to give you reviews in return. So when you give anybody a skill endorsement, or on the next page, we'll talk about recommendations, it will notify them, hey, Mark endorsed you for marketing, and I can say thanks and then endorse you in return. And so it's a quick way to grow a little bit of authority. And again, any skill that you want to add, if it's not there already, just click this little edit button and you can do that. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring Ginny into this conversation. So there she is. Nice. So recommendations in my day, I don't know how everybody else was, but like, for college, I had all these letters of recommendation, and for me, trust me, it was hard to get those. Like there were not a lot of willing participants at that time. But this is the 2021 letter of recommendation. And so it's similar to skills, but this is another level. So you can ask somebody to give you a recommendation. The easiest way to do it is you click on that, you type in their name, it'll ask you how you know them. Like, did you work at the same company or work in different companies at the same time, whatever the relationship was. And it will auto-populate, hey, Jenny, would you mind giving me a recommendation? I always recommend going in there and those of you that are on LinkedIn know that it kind of auto-populates happy birthday messages, work anniversaries, things like that, because it just wants people to stay engaged. Always go in and add something else. Don't be generic, like change it up a little bit and you'll have a better return.
But don't not congratulate them because you don't know what to say, because I'm going to take the other side of this and say, I just do it sometimes just to pop, 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 pop. I know that I'm doing the limited, but I'm doing it, right? I'm giving that little hit of oxytocin to you, right? Congratulations on the new job,
And I guess it's more maybe on the recommendation side that I feel that way, because if I ask them to do it, I really want them to do it, and it means a lot to me, and it's going to be here forever.
Yes.
And so it's a really great way to be able to build your authority, whether it's past clients and customers, people that you were coworkers presently or in the past. Anybody that you had any type of business with is a great person for this. Ginny was so kind with hers, and it goes on a little bit more. But this is what brings some authority. So if I go talk to somebody in another part of the country and they glance at my LinkedIn page, there's 15 people saying, hey, this guy doesn't suck and you could at least talk to him. He's not the worst, right? Like hopefully it's even better than that. But it's a great way to be able to grow your authority. It tags a date to it. So try to get one every month or two or something like that to try and keep them relatively updated. But just like reviews on Google, these are your personal reviews and they will be here forever. They're not going anywhere once they're there. So these are really cool. Here's something I suck at. I suck at giving them. Most people don't ask me, which I guess is probably why. This should be 15 and 15. I should really go back in and give my own recommendations for everybody that's done it for me. So I'm practicing what I preach, but obviously I haven't done that yet, but I promise I will. That'll be some of my homework.
There's time. There's still time.
There's time. So the third stop on our journey is content. And that's the thing that I get asked about the absolute most. People want to know what posts will get the most engagement, what type of things should they be talking about, how should they be leveraging content. So it's good just to write some stuff, but it's at the end of the day, it's black words on a white screen and it's less engaging than photos. So not only is it less engaging, but LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you have to have a photo, but Facebook, all of these others, their algorithms are set to keep people on their platform as long as possible. LinkedIn is no different. How do they do that? By keeping engaging content in front of their viewers and their users. So there is a chance that if you just write something out, they may never show that to anybody. If you show a photo, there's a much better chance. If it's a video, and you would know this better than anybody, Mark, with the amount of video that you do, there is a very good chance that people will see it. And the virality of video is through the roof compared to any other type of content. posts with images already receive almost 100% more engagement than a post without. Video is 5 times more than that on the LinkedIn platform.
Wow.
So that's why when you're scrolling, you see videos more than pretty much anything. And users are 20 times more likely to share it if it's a video versus something else. So if those numbers don't tell you why you should be using video, then I don't know what will. And go ahead.
I laughed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. The numbers are just like through the roof. So in talking about that, I always kind of break it down in like native versus shared. So native is the idea that you uploaded this video onto LinkedIn, right? You click the little photo icon and either selected a photo or a video and put it into the post on LinkedIn. Sharing is if you were to share somebody else's content, if you were to put in the URL for a YouTube video, for example, or something like that. LinkedIn wants the content to be on their platform. If it's on their platform, they are far more likely to serve that up to more eyeballs. If you were to put a YouTube link, the video will show up as a link. If you have the video actually uploaded into the post, it auto plays it. So when people are scrolling, that video begins to play, which is why, and Mark, you've probably seen on a lot of my videos, I have a title screen on the front, something moving that says what this is about, right? Something that hopefully is slightly more eye-catching than my bad haircut.
Okay, so let's break this down for a second. Yeah. So if you're creating YouTube videos and you link the YouTube videos, the algorithm is only seeing that as a link and not as an organic video.
It's gotten better in the way that it displays it, but it still is nowhere near as well displayed as something that is native in that post. So if I'm gonna make a video and it's hosted on YouTube, I am probably gonna go ahead and take the time to upload it to a post on LinkedIn in and of itself. Yes, you don't get as much traction to the actual YouTube video from LinkedIn, but LinkedIn will show it to way, way more people. And I've actually experimented, like I'm a total nerd. And so I've actually experimented with stuff like that in the past. And there's no doubt in the impressions when it's uploaded into the post versus a link to YouTube or Vimeo or whatever. It does a better job at catching eyes because it's moving, right? Like there's something there. It's not just a link. It's not static.
So if it's a YouTube video, they have to take the next step of hitting play. But if it's native and uploaded, it starts when it scrolls to it.
Yes. And for every once in a while, you'll get lucky and LinkedIn will take that link for a YouTube video. They'll have the title below and they'll get like a GIF of it that starts to move or something like that. But their algorithm says we want it on our platform, whatever reason. And so they will prioritize that based on whether or not it's native or something that's shared.
So what you're suggesting is if it starts right away to have like a title screen first.
Yeah, I love title screens. I use Quick.
Let them know what's coming. Let them know what's coming, right?
Yeah. So I use Quick video editing. It's an app, QUIK. It's a GoPro app. I use it constantly to edit video. And it has a million different templates. And you literally type in something and it creates a moving dynamic title screen. And I use it all the time.
Cool.
It's just, here's what people can expect from this video.
Yeah.
How to X, how to Y, introduction to S,
Stay here and watch because.
Yeah. And I mean, for the realtors that are watching this, you'll know, I mean, I'm still a card carrying member of the National Association of Realtors, hear me roar, but I get served up ads all the time where someone grabs like a whiteboard and they're like, hey, are you a realtor? And you just see this while you're scrolling. And it's like, that catches my attention,
Yeah.
So be thinking about the things that catch your attention and mimic them, mimicking is the best form of flattery. So
yeah.
Be timely and relevant. I think COVID was like the perfect example of this. We were like 4 or 5 days into lockdown and I was still seeing commercials and social media ads for like traveling to your favorite destination for the low price of $99 or whatever. And all it told me is like, first of all, somebody sucked at their job at that company that they didn't press pause on those ads. But secondly, it was almost annoying. It was like, how out of touch are you right now that you're still running these things? So that was the like far-fetched example. But When you live in a community and something pertinent is happening right now, talk about that. Don't ignore it. It's weird when you do. It's not relatable, and it seems like things are canned. Nobody likes canned, stale content. Grab people's attention. Limit the text. When is the last time you clicked see more to read the rest of like a 17-page post on social media? Never. So why do we do that? Like, why do we do that? It could be someone that I care deeply about, and there's a chance that I'm going to do that. But if I'm not, like, if this isn't a relative or one of my closest friends, I'm not going to do it. But yet we sit there and we're like hammering out on the keyboard. So limit the text. Stats and quotes win the day. Market statistics. Mark and I were just talking about, and I guess we'll talk a little bit about some market stuff when I wrap this up in a couple of minutes. And the market statistics around the country right now are freaking mind-blowing. People see those and they're blown away. So use those statistics as ways to grab attention. Quotes, statistics, things like that are always good. My highest performing post ever in the history of my LinkedIn use was a quote by Simon Sinek about hiring for talent, not for skill set, right? And I mean, it had like 10,000 impressions in the first couple of weeks. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
When you post stuff, if there is anyone pertinent to that post, tag them. Tag the person, tag the page, tag the organization, tag the charity if you're talking about charities, which we should be doing. But the more people that you tag that are pertinent, I'm not saying be one of those people that tags like 800 people in every single post. That's annoying. Don't do that. And I've been told that in the past. So I learned from experience. I used to do that. I was told it was annoying, and now I agree.
I don't know if I've ever seen that. Would they just do a post and they tag everybody they know so that they'll get it into their feed?
Yeah. So as a real estate agent, I used to post like some listings every once in a while, and I would tag like every realtor I knew, and it still kind of works, whatever. But now I get it, and I'm like, wow, that was kind of annoying, because I had agents tell me, dude, why are you tagging me in this crap? We don't even work at the same company. Like, I think your listing's ugly, and I'm like, okay, thanks, man. But so tag pertinent people, tag people that are important to that post or organization. And that's how you get things to go a little viral. The last part of this content, before I talk about times, just because people always ask that question, lead with questions, especially things that are intriguing to people. I saw somebody the other day, somebody that I work with just said, what are your plans for Labor Day? Is it Labor Day coming up or Memorial Day?
I'm amazed at how many people miss on that.
I do. I feel horrible because I'm all, but anyway.
Well, you get to a point where you've convinced yourself that you're confused every time, that you lose complete confidence in what it is. I've seen this happen with, I would say more than 50% of people do the same thing. Like, which one is it? I forget. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm 50% chance. That was what we were talking about, The Economist, right? I'm 50% chance I'm going to get it right. Maybe. Go ahead.
Every single time. So Memorial Day is coming up next weekend, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this year is going fast.
Yeah, it is.
I thought somebody said, hey, what are your Memorial Day plans? That was the perfect question, because all of us have been in our basements for the last 18 months. She got like 80 comments of people being like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm just getting the hell out of my house, I'm doing, like, it was awesome. So ask questions, people will answer. In the real estate world, light cabinetry, dark cabinetry, mid-century, modern, traditional, those types of questions, people care about that stuff, and people get passionate too. So it's like, you have a kitchen A and a kitchen B, you'll get answers. Don't do it all the time, but lead with questions. Polls are awesome on LinkedIn. You can create your own up to like 10 answers. It's a great way for lead generation, potentially too. If you're talking about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many times in the last 6 months have you thought about what it might be like to sell your house, right? Like, for the first time, there's people who are like, man, like, I'm seeing some values, like, I could possibly be interested. I hadn't even thought about that. So polls are cool. But the most important thing is, next to posting something, respond. It's called social media for a reason. It is meant to be social. If you post a bunch of stuff, people engage, and you do nothing with it, you might as well never post. So I know some people that are really, really good about that, going through and liking and commenting on every single comment. That is how you grow community. That is how you grow authority. That is how you talked about the oxytocin, like, that is how you release that. into people's minds. They feel warm, they feel fuzzy, and you're engaging in a social way. And that's why we call it social media. So don't forget to respond. That's obviously super important.
What's the term they call when you post it and you disappear? Post and ghost. You
Yeah,
don't want to you don't want to post and ghost.
Well, you know what post and ghost feels like? Post and ghost feels like you're using a service to do all your posting for you, and then you just do nothing with it.
Right.
And and some people do that and it works for them, and I'm not knocking it. But if that's not what you're doing and that's not the point, like, yeah, I mean, it's like following up in business, right? Like I used to joke, realtors, we tend to miss out on repeat business because we sucked at follow-up in the past. We've gotten much, much better at it. Statistically speaking, somebody reusing the same realtor was like 1 in 3 or something like that in the years bygone, right? And now it's gotten much better because there's programs and systems and things through your brokerage and easy ways online. But I always would say, hey, use the calendar on your phone. like sit at a closing and be like, hey, in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months, I need to follow up with Mark. Right. And that was my first CRM ever, was my calendar on my phone. But it's the same thing. You create a relationship, somebody engages with you, and then you leave them hanging, and you might as well have never done anything. Timing is everything. I am becoming less, I almost deleted this slide. I am becoming less concerned about this. But people always ask it, and some of the platforms, including LinkedIn, still use it to some extent as data that they provide. This is when people are on LinkedIn right before work, midway through the morning, but slightly before lunch, towards the tail end of lunch, and then right after they get off is usually. So if you're worried about times, but frankly, like for me, I'm going to delete this slide after this presentation because. But
why? Why do you say that? Because it seems like LinkedIn, the posts linger longer than like a Facebook or an Instagram. It feels like it's you get reactions days and sometimes weeks later, which I find interesting.
I think the reason is, so, the Zuckerberg of the world is more concerned with constantly rotating content,
right?
Stuff all the time. And the LinkedIn, Microsoft people of the world are more considered, or they're more considerate of valuable content, right? And so, yeah, you'll be scrolling on LinkedIn and see something that was posted like 11 days ago. That never happens on Facebook.
Right.
Like that never happens on Instagram. So again, I think it's more about relevant content, things that people are engaging with, and less about times. This is specific LinkedIn research data, but I would be more worried about this for things like Facebook, frankly. So again, I think I'm probably going to delete that slide just because LinkedIn is more in depth, right? It is more professional. It is the professionals network. And because of that, they do things a little bit differently.
So it truly doesn't matter, or if you're going to set yourself, sometimes you got to just time block and set yourself to a schedule. So if you're going to do it, might as well do it when people are close to looking at it, right?
If you're going to do it, I recommend doing it either right before work hours or sometimes slightly before lunch. Those are the two that hit the most. People are scrolling right when they get to work or they start working. It's the way we kind of warm our brains up and get moving. And then after 3 or 4 hours of work, when we're ready to eat and we're ready to have a little bit of a break, we do the same thing. So those are the 2 times for me. Very beginning of the workday is slightly before, and slightly before lunch are the 2 that for me, I've had hit the most.
But not to be overly concerned, because LinkedIn isn't focused on that. They're going to deliver that content when they feel it's most appropriate, right?
Absolutely. And I think the problem is, Mark, like sometimes when we it's like paralysis by analysis, right?
Yeah.
Like if I start thinking about the exact time that I'm posting everything on my personal like social medias that I'm trying to grow, relationships on, I'm probably going to post less because that becomes overwhelming in a habit and a chore. And it should be a social thing that's free flowing, and your content will reflect the mood you're in. And if it becomes something that's like, this is a chore and a checkbox, it's going to feel like a chore and a checkbox.
Yeah, I hear you. I get that fully.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about just for a minute is networking. It is a great source of future business. I promise you. I know people in the real estate space, in the title space, in the attorney space, in the lender space that are growing their business using LinkedIn in a very real way. So invite people to connect. I always, after I have a meeting with someone, if it's someone that I'm relatively new to, my first thing is to go and connect with them on LinkedIn, and then I'm a handwritten note, like email both guy, sometimes video follow up. But my first thing, my habit is to connect with them on LinkedIn after a meeting. Do it with caution though when you're accepting people. It's not like Instagram and Facebook. It's not as inundated with spam, but there is definitely plenty. So if this person is in an unrelated business in a third world country, there's a good chance like you probably don't need to connect with them. There's probably not going to grow a whole lot of business relationships there. And you'll know when you've connected with someone that's slightly spammy, when they're like, "Hey, I've been trying to reach you about your auto warranty. Would you like to have a conversation?" So be careful with who you connect with. No one cares on LinkedIn how many connections you have.
Right.
It's not like Instagram where it's like, "Oh yeah, I got to 10,000." No one cares on LinkedIn. So there's no need to just try and grow that network. If they're not somebody that's valuable to your business and that you can be valuable to them or their business, then don't worry about connecting.
Quality over quantity, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Do you encourage people to go back? Is there a purpose in going back and like disconnecting with people?
No, not really. I mean, every once in a while I do it when I start getting spammed, right? Like
Right.
if they start LinkedIn messaging me and serving me up all kinds of garbage, then I end up doing it. But for the most part, I haven't gone back and done that. But of course, like, comment, endorse, recommend, all of those things. You do those things, and it will beget those things in return. So stay active in that way. This is something that I think is important. Sync it with your email. It's a Microsoft product. It doesn't mean that it's the world's safest thing. They've been hacked. Everybody's been hacked. But I don't have a problem connecting them with my personal email and letting them scrub through and find everyone that I may want to connect with. If I'm still an active realtor, which I'm not anymore, I keep my license, but I'm not active. But if I was, I would make sure it was synced. It was synced with my email, because everyone I do transactions with is in there. Those are the people that I need to stay connected with. As a real estate agent, it's important to know statistically, Americans do a transaction every 2 to 5 years on the dot. I mean, it's like clockwork. And so that statistic doesn't lie. How do you keep in touch with them? This is just another way to stay connected and stay front of mind, so that when that time comes to buy or sell, you're the person they think of. So sync it with your email. And I think there's one more on this that I really like. Export. So of course, if you're trying to become the expert for a certain company, I want to become, the realtor to the stars for this company. I want to become their go-to agent. An easy way to do that is to search that company, find them. There's literally a link at the top of every company page that says 28 employees here, 58 employees here. You click that, all those people come up. That is your honey hole if you want to become the expert or go-to agent for a particular company. I love this feature. It's nowhere near as easy to do this on any other social platform. You can export your connections into a mailing list. I don't have, we don't want to sit here and go through. If you want to learn how to do it, just Google export LinkedIn contacts or LinkedIn connections, and there will be a step-by-step on Google. But you can export them. So if these are people you're connected with on LinkedIn, how cool is it to be able to export them into a file and have them now a part of your newsletter list, or take it to another level, turn that into a custom audience for Instagram and Facebook, where those people are being targeted on those platforms too. Data is the currency that we live in. The world that we live in right now, data is our currency. And so LinkedIn allowing you to export their contact information is huge. And I love that trick, and hardly anybody does that. So think about that. Stay active in groups, ask questions, engage. If I wanted to be the go-to realtor for a specific neighborhood, I am creating a real estate group for that neighborhood. In El Paso, Texas, my neighborhood is called Coronado Hills. If I was still in real estate, I'd be creating a Coronado Hills real estate group on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still investing pretty heavily into groups, just like Facebook has been. And so it's a great place to be able to create a community. And if you create the group now, you're going to own that group in perpetuity. So you control the content, you control the narrative, you control who can be in it and who can't be. In the days of pocket listings, when there's no inventory, you could control those conversations in that group. So I think groups are pretty heavily underutilized on LinkedIn. And then the last thing I would say, LinkedIn events are through the roof right now. I did a couple classes in another part of the country a few weeks ago, and we had a Facebook event and a LinkedIn event. And believe it or not, the LinkedIn event had infinitely more engagement than my Facebook event did. And I don't know why. I don't know how that happened for sure. But I know Microsoft and the owners of LinkedIn have been investing in this platform. And these are smart people, you know, and so they're really starting to put some money and some development time into LinkedIn events. So I think it's a missed opportunity.
Say that again. So the same event you did as a Facebook invitation and a LinkedIn invitation, and the LinkedIn invitation exponentially blew it out of the water.
It crushed it.
Really?
And I think, you know, part of it was Facebook has slowed down how many things it ties to people, right? So like, if I'm tagged in a picture, it's going to serve it up to some of my friends. If I'm tagged in a post, it's going to serve it up. If I'm attending an event, it's not serving that up like it used to. It used to say, hey, your buddy Mark Stiles is going to this, you know, event this weekend, and I would see it, right? I don't think I'm seeing that as much anymore.
Yeah.
This is not a scientific thing that I'm saying. It's just in my experience. Yet on LinkedIn, I will see Mark Stiles is attending this. And I really think the virality of that is why I'm talking. I mean, this specific event that I'm thinking of, there were like 350 registrants on LinkedIn. And I think there were like maybe like 15 or 20.
Wow.
And so, you know, it doesn't mean that they can't point to the same place. It doesn't mean that it couldn't point to a Facebook event live like we're doing right now. But I really think that those LinkedIn events, it's not as user-friendly. It's hard to go live in a LinkedIn event. You have to have another software and third-party paid stuff. Like that part they haven't figured out yet, but the event itself pointing to a Zoom or Facebook or wherever, a live event in person, hopefully soon, knock on wood, wherever it is, I think it's a huge opportunity, and I can tell it's working just based on the numbers I'm seeing. So like anything else, I don't know who this dude is. He doesn't look like
I like him though. He looks like a good guy.
Yeah, he looks like a good dude. I want to hang out with him. I like his
He's got good energy.
He's got good energy. There's some serotonin release.
Yeah.
So do the work and the results will follow. The difference between the most successful people I've ever met in my life and the people that never quite got there is the ones that were successful, stepped out in faith, tried new things, and they end up killing it. So this is just a little bit. I'm glad to work alongside my friends at WFG National Title. Mark, you're the man, as you know, and everybody that knows you know. And this is me. And I threw this little thing together. Anybody that wants to connect with me in any way, whip out your phone and scan this QR code, and we can connect socially.
That's cool. That was one of the classes we did, right?
Yeah, this is one of the things we talked about, and I'm glad to talk about it again. So
that might be in our Sam bubble. We'll have to ask Michaela if that's in the Sam bubble. Yeah. I'm wondering if we should play this on a LinkedIn, you know, take the video content and put it on LinkedIn. This is valuable information. So I just did it, everybody. And I'm looking at Sam's contact info, and really cool. Sam, was this a landing page?
Yeah, it's called a flow page. It's one of my favorite platforms, super cheap, free, or affordable, depending on what you use. But I mean, everything's there. You can text me, you can tweet me, you can call me, you can, my contact info is all there. My socials are all there, and it's a really cool tool. So for anybody still watching at this point, that's called Flow Code. You can see it right here. I leave it on the QR code so that people can see it. It's a really cool tool. You don't have to have one of those like popples, you know, that people get. The battery dies. Have you seen those where it's like
no, like, but I'm showing, this is really cool. So is this part so the actual QR code is the flow code that drops you to this spot right here?
Yep. Yeah. Super easy to do too. And my contact info is there. So if anybody has questions, or if Mark, you want to do something on that, I love that thing. I think it's so cool.
I think we're gonna have to revisit this and do something on this. This is fascinating. I'm kind of blown away by that momentarily. So every time we get Sam here, I learn something. I mean, I learned something. I have to immediately go back to my LinkedIn. I have to take the, because I think this is the background of my profile picture with LinkedIn. I gotta blur that out. I'm definitely doing the microphone. What do we get? 10, we get 10 seconds, 10 full seconds.
12 seconds, something like that.
I always tell my kids, I'm like, I know you're embarrassed, but if someone gives me a microphone, I'm going to grab the microphone and I'm going to talk into the microphone. So I'll do that here as well. Headlines, I'm going to look at. Contact info is amazing. I'm going to go back and update all of the contact info as well. And thanks, dude. Thank you very much. And I hope everybody who's watching this gets something out of it too, because I do believe that LinkedIn is really where things are starting to go. I'm seeing a lot more activity on it. We never really had a page for the firm. I've had a personal one that, I it was yellow pages though, right? I mean, I did it because I had to. I put the information there and people connected with me and I never really looked at it, but I'm really seeing a lot of activity on it lately. And I think it's what you talked about, the trusted source, right? It's real, it's business. So it's purposeful. People are sitting down at their computer, they're looking at it, they're reading it. They're not just mindlessly scrolling through it. So thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for talking about it. I nerd out on this stuff all the time, and I wouldn't bring it if I didn't think it was valuable. And I just, Microsoft is investing a lot of time and a lot of money in it. And at the end of the day, the real estate industry, I mean, the amount of work it takes to become a licensed agent, right? Like the amount of continuing education that it takes, the level of professionalism that you have to display is worthy of being active on LinkedIn, right? Like you have a place on this platform, you belong here. And it's not just for, CEOs and computer engineers and stuff like that. Like the real estate community absolutely belongs there. And let's stake our flag in the ground.
I mean, we're B2C. There's consumers everywhere and they are all over LinkedIn. They may be on there for a different purpose, but if they're seeing you front of mind, you're their agent, right? We talk about that with the podcast. Imagine this, you're sleeping, you had a long day, you have a big day tomorrow, and somebody's up late and they're looking at your profile and they're deciding this is the person I want to work with because of what you've been able to put out there.
And after today, they're hearing your voice for 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm psyched for that. I'm going to that right away. I got to figure out what to say. I think we're specializing in solutions. That tagline will be part of it. Well, we've got 8 more minutes. Can we talk about the market a little bit?
Oh man, let's do it.
So inventory is super tight out here. Nationwide, we're all dealing with the same thing, right? So what is it? What are some of the strategies that the Texas agents are doing to kind of rattle cages and open up some of the inventory to keep this thing going?
So and we talked about this a little bit in the green room. As a real estate agent, I know we have always kept our data very close, right? Like if I were to offer up a CMA or a market analysis to somebody, I always wanted it to be after a meeting, and I may even take it if I didn't get the listing for sure, and provide it later. And something like, this was my data, right? Here's the comps. This is my data. So now I'm seeing people, you're having to shake the tree to get people that are willing to sell right now. They're there. I know they're there because every listing that comes on the market, you think they all had been planning for this exact thing to happen for them to sell. Like, no, they're just like, hey, it's a good time to sell. So we have to let them know, instead of keeping that data close to the vest, I really think it's time to start telling people, did you have any idea that your house is worth between this and this right now? Most people will be blown away. I mean, I'm not active in the market anymore, but I'm blessed. I have this house and a couple little investment properties, and I get served up with these things, and I'm dumbfounded. Like, I cannot fathom what's happened. And this is El Paso, Texas. And so when you let a consumer know the price range of what the value of their house is worth, you're going to shake some leaves down from that tree. You're going to find people that are willing, that had no clue that that's where they stood, had been thinking about either downsizing or moving to a different part of the country to be with family or whatever it might be. And by letting them know, not only am I willing to share this data with you, which is part of the messaging, right? Like, other people may be requiring all types of information before they share your home's value. I think it's important that so I want to give it to you. Right? Like, that's a different narrative. When there's other people that are saying, well, you would have to have a meeting with me and you'll have to click here and accept this and do that. And you're just willing to say, hey, you know what? I think it's important that this is what your house is worth. Did you have any idea? Not only is that more warm and fuzzy than keeping it locked and kind of, behind closed doors. But it's also typically in today's world going to blow them away. So right off the bat, you're going to know, is this person someone who's willing to test those waters or not? And if they test the waters, they're going to be even more blown away, because if it's anything like it is here up there, I mean, I'm seeing houses that are having 25, 30, 40 offers, and so then you have to kind of wrangle that information, serve it to those people, and they're going to be blown away. And you can start to say now, the future is not, we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. We're seeing, what's going to happen with that demand once we take our masks off and get back to normal. Is it still going to be here, or is it going to start to settle down? It may settle down a little bit. We're seeing some inflation. Are they gonna work on that by bumping the rates up a little bit? Which in my life, if they said, oh, it's 4.5 now, everyone would be like, what?
Yeah.
4.5 is like, it's free money,
Yeah.
But what's going to happen with those things? So it may be that the next few months and this summer leading into fall, this could be truly the greatest time in my career in this industry to sell. It may really be that time right now. Not
But
just
where do I go, Sam? Where do I go? If I sell my house, then where do I go? And that's the biggest obstacle that I think a lot of our folks are having.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. But when I think of that, I think of, where did a lot of people go at the beginning of the pandemic? They bought houses because they didn't want to be stacked on top of each other in apartments or in senior living facilities anymore. So what does that mean? That means there's some space in those places right now. I'm seeing apartments starting, they can't keep up with construction to really serve the market, but there's availability there. There's availability in 55 and over communities, which are huge all over the country right now. And so I think that's a battle, but there are options. And you can't have that conversation if you don't start it.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about, because it was my constant mission to say, how can we loosen this up, folks? How can we do it? There's suitable housing contingencies. Can we talk about suitable housing with some timelines? They have got 15 days, because the objection is, well, where do I go? I know I can take all this money, but where do I go? I don't have a second home. I don't have an investment property. I don't have in-laws. Where do I go? Is it a longer closing date? Is it, the 1-day exclusive, but where do they go? Right. One of the things when I've been riding around lately on training for the Pan Mass is, I'm seeing more signs. So that's a huge bonus, right? We're seeing the people who can make that move, who have alternate housing. But one of the things I was thinking about, which I'm dying to share with my community here, is all these people, it's like they're putting these pre-for sale signs out in their yard and they don't even know it. Class of 2021. Right? So maybe it's the senior in high school, maybe it's the senior in college, but I'm seeing them all over the place. And I'm like, how many of those signs are going to turn into for sale signs in the next 60 days? Because I've said it myself, the house that I'm in, we joke about it. It's, I love flipping houses. I love the fact that we're seeing the investment market starting to fire up again. I love it for a couple of ways. One, we're going to be able to help a lot of people who are, in a lot of pain, right? So the distress, they took the forbearance and they just have a ton of equity, but they can't really afford the house, right? So there's going to be a lot of that. But also as an investor, I'm excited to see all of these opportunities, because I'm a living, breathing dollar cost average. I don't care where the market is. If it's low, I'm buying. If it's middle, I'm buying. If it's high, I'm buying, because real estate is great, and you can take a dip, but long term, it's going to be great. But I've always said the house we were in, it initially started as a flip. This was the perfect location, perfect everything, perfect opportunity. It was probate. I found it. I stayed on it for 12 months, calling the attorney, finally got it. And then we decided, oh my goodness, this is a wonderful home. We're going to move into it. But now it's the 10-year flip, right? So instead of the typical 6 months to a year flip, it's a 10-year flip. But I joke that, when my youngest graduates high school, boom, in goes the sign. I wonder how many other people out there are thinking the same thing.
This is why I love spending time with you. That's like thoughts on a whole nother level, but that is so true. I mean, I wish I could, I'm sure somewhere, maybe Remine or somebody has statistics on that, but not even the youngest child in some cases. It may be one of the young children where it's like, okay, well, now we're down to this. We have this many rooms. It's time for us to downsize. So yeah, I mean, think about that as an agent. Like I'm riding around with you training, and every one of those signs is got to be a little like,
congratulations on this wonderful occasion. You must be very proud. But with that, many things are changing. Did you know the value of your home is $777,000? What?
Yeah, you combine those couple. Wow. See,
boom.
That's how things happen. Boom.
Value bomb.
Yeah.
Right there.
I hope somebody watching this does that. And I hope that they shoot you an email and say, oh my gosh, check this out.
Yeah. It's awesome. 3:00. Look at that. This is the perfect, we're going to convert this to a podcast too. So you're good with that, right?
Absolutely. It's an honor. I got to share that with my mom too.
Folks, I hope you appreciate all of this, and this is going to be there for you all to view and rewind. And like I said, we'll get the printout version of it, but hopefully you got some value out of this. I know I did. I always do. And we're going to get Sam back sooner than later. And I think what we'll do is we'll update that QR code with the new app that you've got figured out and dialed in.
Absolutely. Let's do
it. Thank you, buddy.
It's always a pleasure.
Have a great week.
You too.